Then we go to the first theme, EIT, Industrial Challenges and Needs. And I invite 3 representatives for major Swedish companies that have managed to survive, I believe, partly by innovation. So please come and tell us how you do it and why you are interested to go into this new model of working. So we will see Ulf Wahlberg, Vice President from Ericsson, Per Eckermark, Senior Vice President ABB, and Carl Bergman, Head of Research, Vattenfall. So you have a chance to give a short introduction, and I start with Per.
Okay. Dear Commissioner, dear Minister, dear President, ladies and gentlemen, the entire power sector is facing immense challenges all over the world, where energy efficiency, greater mix of energy sources, and smarter power systems are all playing increasingly important roles. Europe is a region with good fundamentals for the introduction of new technologies. However, competition is increasing, and innovation must constantly be developed further to maintain or improve the position that Europe has. Cooperation between government, academia, and industries is essential to carry out breakthrough innovation projects. There is a strong tradition in Sweden of such collaboration, like the introduction of HVDC Light in the 90s in the island of Gotland, which was supported by the Swedish Energy Agency, and that has now grown into a billion-dollar industry. KIC makes similar projects possible with a strong European dimension to it. Smart transmission and distribution systems are true enablers for the integration of renewable energy to meet the European 2020 targets. We currently have several large smart grid pilots, like the Smart Grid Gotland, the Stockholm Royal Seaport, and the Meridio initiative in Germany, where we interact with government and universities using the triangle innovation, education, and R&D. The ABB Group has high beliefs in the power sector and in Europe as an innovative region, which is why we have some of our major global research centers here in Europe. We also have announced large investments in the power sector, like the $400 million investment in Karlskrona in the cable factory, and investments of $50 million in the semiconductor facility in Switzerland. We are proud to have nationalities from all around the world represented within ABB in Europe. We support many universities and encourage them to stand out, become world leaders in various parts of their respective parts of the power industry. But it takes long-term financing and cooperation in various European initiatives, like the KIC InnoEnergy. To summarize, in order to be successful with the development of innovation in our region, government commitment, collaboration with industries and academia will play fundamental roles. Thank you.
Then I ask Ulf for Ericsson. Ericsson is actually participating in both KICs here in Stockholm, so you are bridging the gap, if there is one.
Madam Commissioner, Minister, it's a pleasure to be here. I will go back a little bit to we also were very early engaged in this from Ericsson, and we very early on recognized this unique combination of education, research, and innovation. And I also would like to stress the educational part, because for our company, it's so important that we find the right competence, and it's where we find the right competence that we can have our development organization and our interactions. Looking at our industry, I would say that we are in a very, very interesting transformation of the whole society based on the rapid growth of information and communication technology, which is where Ericsson are working. So we can see that there are a lot of new opportunities opening up. I mean, if you go back like 5 years ago, we didn't have anything we call mobile broadband. Today, it's huge and it's everywhere around Europe. This creates new possibilities, not only for big companies, but also for small and medium-sized companies to make innovation on top of that. So we want interaction with those companies, and EIT will be a major force and catalyst to do this. So it's not only about creating new companies when we talk about innovation. That is important, and we can help them by doing that. But it's also this transformation, which will affect all companies. If you are in the healthcare sector, if you are in the transport sector, if you are in the energy sector, ICT will transform and change. And if you want to stay competitive, you need to take advantage of these new possibilities. We also see Internet of Things. In Ericsson, we have a vision of saying like everything that has a benefit from being connected will be connected. This is also dramatically happening now. EIT ICT Labs will really have a way of reaching out to different segments, and not only companies, healthcare and elderly care. How can we utilize this? How can we speed this up? And this will drive also the competition of European companies taking part in this. I think also the regions and the governments have very important roles in this. I would like to thank Sten Nordin, the mayor of Stockholm, who's been very supportive for these initiatives also from the start. I think also Stockholm has made a very good approach in setting challenging and driving targets for Stockholm, like in the Royal Seaport projects, looking at how can you build smart, sustainable cities. And this has really brought together academia and different partners from industry that usually is not working together. This is also the spirit of the KICS. So I think that's a good role model to create this kind of innovation arena that really makes this cooperation start. Then I also would like to finish, we go back to, I think it's very important, when we started up this cooperation and we were part of making a pilot project, I think it was in 2007, we also recognized the need for flexibility and simplicity, because we cannot spend lots of energy from academia and industry on just applying for different projects. We need to be faster, we need to be quicker, and we need to have flexibility in the system. But I'm convinced the EIT, it's really a strong tool for the competitiveness of European industry and this unique combination. And again, I think the education part is extremely important now, where we need to secure competence in the ICT area for Europe. Thank you.
Last but not least, Carl Bergman, does a power company need innovation? I'm interested.
Absolutely. We don't. Vattenfall is Europe's 5th biggest power utility. Thank you. We don't want feedback loops. And of course, we don't sell products, but we need to keep on continuously innovating in order to stay competitive and also to meet the challenges of climate change going forward. I find that people often confuse innovation and invention. An invention, that's a lone inventor who has forgotten to go to the hairdresser for a very long time and who works alone. Innovation is much more about community. Individuals will always be important, but not least in the energy business, innovation is all about bringing together utilities with the market contact, technology companies, universities and institutes, but not least authorities, because in the energy business, regulation is an important part of innovation, and I can name examples where limitations are not in technology, but in regulation and business models. Vattenfall has extremely good experience working nationally together with not least ABB and Ericsson, and I know that that has led to several innovations of which you mentioned examples. And we now see the KICS as the next step in this. We have high hopes that we will have similar experience, but now on the European domain, where the formerly national companies have become European or even global players. We have vast experience from the union's framework programs. Here our experiences are more mixed because, of course, the programs produce very good results, but they are often hampered by bureaucracy, and we're, as an example, still 2 years after the program finished in dialogue with the Commission about some invoices. So we think more than twice before we enter such a program, and it's never the money that we're after, it's the community. We, as I said, have very high expectations on participating in KIC InnoEnergy. We think this is a new form of a targeted operation, so we expect higher efficiency. Of course, you can bring together good parts and hope that something good will come out of it, but we see this as a new, much more targeted setup, and we expect that that will lead to faster innovations, because innovations in the energy business are slow in coming. It takes decades to go from the laboratory to the market in a big way. So less bureaucracy, I couldn't agree more with my colleague. We believe that KIC InnoEnergy is part of the puzzle of going towards a more sustainable energy system in Europe from a utility perspective, and putting on a bigger hat. I do feel that the combination of a deregulated energy market in Europe and these kind of initiatives will give a valuable competitive advantage to Europe. When we discuss with our colleagues in the US, for example, we can see that they are very much in a planned economy thinking still, and we believe that Europe has a big chance, in particular in the area of smart grids, where KIC InnoEnergy is focused. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insight in why you entered into the KICs. And I think also that I think the Commission noted some advice what we should avoid in terms of complicating things. I would give one question actually to Ericsson standing in the middle here, because in the energy sector we say that it takes very long cycle times. You come from ICT, where you have very short cycle times. Energy sector, think long and things work. ICT, you can bring things on the market that are not quite finished. But how can you contribute in bringing this speed into the energy sector?
I think one important part is if you look at the energy sector and these new possibilities that we see in working with smart grids and how you can have your, the behavior of the consumers of the energy to really change the behavior. You need to interact. And by using modern tools of smartphones, of equipment in your home, these sensors that you can have in the network to everything from evening out the loads of the network to again report back and change the behavior of me as a consumer. ICT will play a very, very important role in this. ICT will also enable the communication between not only people but things, and then things and people. I want to communicate with my washing machine, tell it to go on when the electricity is as cheap as possible. So I can see both the long term and the short term. Our business is the same. If you look at our infrastructure for communication we have out there, it takes a while. It's now the 4th generation of networks out there. There you have a more long term. But in combination with that, when you look at the applications, it's very short term. And there we need to be quick. And the competition, the global competition, is fierce.
Thank you. Per, very short.
Very short, okay. I would also like to highlight the importance of piloting technology, like we are doing in the Royal Seaport in Stockholm, for instance. And also, in addition to that, rules for procurement of innovations. It's important that we are allowed maybe to come to the market and get the applications out there to test them without having the standard EU procurement rules. We see that in China, they are heavily supporting their own industry. We are not even invited to procurement in China where new technology is introduced. we need some advantages here in Europe also to be able to launch new technologies. I think that's very important.
I think the minister has a question for you.
Thank you very much for your interesting remarks. Because the EIT is like a pan-European network, and my question is about how do you facilitate mobility of personnel, like personnel, researchers, students between the KIC nodes, or are you just dealing with this KIC nodes here in Stockholm, or are you having mobility between the nodes in your perspective and in your company?
Per?
I mean, we have programs for global mobility in our company, and just in the unit I was working in before, HVDs in Ludvika, which Bo knows very well, we have 35 nationalities. Of 500 employees, 35 nationalities. So really, global mobility is high on the radar screen. And we see universities and the KIC InnoEnergy initiative as very important funnels of competence, of talent into Sweden and into our research centers. So we're working on that, and we are looking forward to see the first students coming out of this educational initiative. So we will take care of them and give them jobs in ABB. Thanks.
I have two questions to you. First of all, let me say that when we agreed that EIT will become part of Horizon 2020, it's exactly because we wanted to create a unified system of research and have synergies between the various initiatives. But at the same time, we made it very clear that we want to retain the flexibility and the simplification for the EIT. Now, this is questioned by European Parliament, some of the members. And I want to see how important it is. I think one of the three has mentioned it. But how important is this? How important was this factor in attracting you to participate? This is my first.
I can build on my previous comment. I mean, of course, joining a conventional, let's call it a framework program, has some financial benefit. But for a big company like Vattenfall, that is not motivation enough. It does not compensate the extra bureaucracy that we experience. It's probably very important for smaller companies. So this has been a major factor for us in engaging in KSE, that we expect much more flexibility and much more. You shouldn't confuse the objective and the process. I mean, what we want is innovation. It's not bureaucracy. But sometimes you feel that the bureaucracy is the important part and the results are secondary in the framework programs.
Can I just comment? I think this is so important. If you look, what has changed during the years is that the lifetime of a product is so much shorter than today, and the innovation in a big company needs to be ongoing all the time, because otherwise there's some other company in the world that will beat you in the competition. So this innovation just need to be faster and faster. Otherwise, European companies will fall behind from the competition outside Europe. So this speed and this flexibility, it's not only to make life easier, it's to really to catch up and to be able to compete.
And my second question, again, it arises from comments from our colleagues from the European Parliament. They are very concerned about the geographical spread of the KICs. And of course, we all understand how important it is to spread this idea all over the European Union, if possible. Now, would you say that it is, for you, easy to create partnerships in other countries, even at a smaller scale? Maybe not a collocation center, but have you thought of creating some partnerships with new member states, for example, and try to make them participate or exchange your experience with them?
Yeah, I fully agree. And we have research centers in ABB in many European countries. We are very diversified in that sense. And we have important research centers also in the new European countries, like Poland is one of the biggest research centers. So that there we already work together with the universities. So I think I've clearly support that ambition to spread it to bigger footprint. Again, to attract more possibilities of innovation, but also more talent into the industry. Because that's our biggest challenge, to meet the need for new talent in our industry. I mean, in the power field. So clearly, if we can spread the footprint, I would definitely support that.
Sorry.
I think you take one because short. One more question.
Well, there's another important aspect that you are pan-European, and I was going to ask all three of you, and one could answer, is whether in your technologies, as you said, in some you have very long life cycles, in others you have very short life cycles. I come from biotech pharma where you have very long life cycles. But what I do see, if you have organizations like in the United States, the BIO, which is comprising all the biotech industry, they have helped to work together with FDA to shorten the regulatory aspects in shortening the innovative cycle. So I think besides of this competence triangle you are building up together, do you see a chance in having all the players pan-European playing together to have an influence on the regulation?
Yes, absolutely. As I was saying, in the energy industry, regulation and authority is a major part of innovation. Because you have to know the box that you're playing in. And so authorities need to be, and the Commission, of course, need to be integral parts of this. And I see this as a big opportunity.
Just a short comment there. I fully agree with Carl here. We see it in the power sector, in the new transmission grids that we are aiming to build with DC technology. There clearly, you know, the technical challenges are there, but we are on the way to solve them. But the real challenge is the business model and the regulatory framework that we have just started on that route. And that will take additional years so that will be the bottleneck to introduce new technologies.
Yeah, for my company, this is extremely important. I mean, the regulatory system, to have a pan-European spectrum allocation, to be able to carry around your phone and it work in every country, it's so important. And I think sometimes we forget, Europe has been very strong in driving this common technology in our industry. We have what we call the 3GPP standards, which is basically started in a European standard that now has evolved into GSM, 3G, 4G. Around 80% of all the subscriptions around the world are of that standard. It's a huge success for the way we have worked in Europe. Sometimes I think we forget that, so this is just so important. And we have to drive one digital Europe. We cannot have different regulatory system in each country that will kill the industry. So it's very, very important.
Well, I think we thank the panel with an applaud, and I invite the Minister of Enterprise.
Thank you, and I would like to thank you for sharing your expertise and your perspective during the first topic. Our discussion strengthened my belief that if we are to remain truly competitive in the future, we can simply not rely on dated models of collaborations in the past. We need to look forward to new solutions. And if we think that just putting research and business together, it is all we need, then I think we are mistaken. So one crucial component, I think, when we talk about education, innovation, and research is when we also add entrepreneurship, especially in the education system. I think that both Sweden and Europe need a new mindset, actually, and a more entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial skills, and less judgmental attitudes toward risk and failure. And I traveled in the US to learn more about how they have their attitudes toward risk and failure. And even if the Swedish innovation system has many strong points, our labor force has been described by the OECD as innovative, but not so entrepreneurial. And therefore I've been dedicated to emphasize entrepreneurship on the political agenda. And also, and now Sweden has a coherent strategy for entrepreneurship in the educational system, because we need to add this new mindset, but a mindset of entrepreneurship in the research and educational system, I think. And EIT offers a unique concept and opportunity where we can have this role model to explore further and also use this collaboration between entrepreneurship and companies, research, innovation, and education. And it's a very good role model for my work to create a new Swedish innovative strategy. So once again, warmly thanks for the opportunity to be here today, and I do hope you will have a great following discussion and dialogue on the very important topic of innovation, education, and research. So thank you very much.